I stood frozen in place as the room fell silent. The clink of champagne glasses halted mid-toast as my wife Jessica laughed loudly. Announcing to our closest friends, "I am divorcing Daniel." Finally free of him, all eyes turned to me waiting for an emotional outburst. I simply smiled and replied, "Indeed." My heart shattered inside my chest, but I maintained my composure. What she did not realize was that everything was about to change completely. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you want to hear more life lessons like this one. It was a warm summer day at the downtown art fair when I first met Jessica. The sunlight caught her auburn hair as she examined a sculpture, and something about her confidence drew me in immediately. I approached with a comment about the artwork, and her smile captivated me instantly. Our conversation flowed effortlessly as we wandered through the exhibits, discovering our shared passion for contemporary art and travel. Our first date followed just 2 days later at a small Italian restaurant tucked away from the busy streets. I remember how she laughed at my jokes and how her eyes lit up when she talked about her marketing career dreams. That night, walking her home under the stars, I felt something I had never experienced before, a connection that seemed almost magical in its intensity. Dating Jessica was like living in a whirlwind romance movie. We explored hidden hiking trails on weekends, surprised each other with thoughtful gifts, and spent countless nights talking until sunrise about our hopes and dreams. 6 months in, I knew she was the one. Her ambition matched my own drive to succeed, and we pushed each other to be better every day. The proposal came during a trip to the coast. I had arranged a private sunset dinner on the beach, complete with her favorite music playing softly in the background. When I dropped to one knee presenting the diamond ring we had subtly discussed months prior, her eyes welled with tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes," she exclaimed, pulling me up into a kiss that sealed our future together. Our wedding was everything we had dreamed of: an elegant ceremony in a historic garden venue, with 150 of our closest friends and family. Jessica looked breathtaking in her fitted gown, and as we recited our vows, I truly believed we would spend forever together. The reception lasted until early morning, with dancing, heartfelt speeches and promises of eternal love. 2 weeks before the wedding, my family attorney approached me about a prenuptial agreement. Coming from a family with significant assets and a growing software company of my own, he advised it was the prudent choice. When I brought it up to Jessica, I noticed the first flicker of displeasure cross her face. "Do you not trust me?" she asked, her voice tinged with hurt. I explained it was simply a practical matter given my family business and inheritance. "It is just a formality, a piece of paper we will never need," I reassured her, taking her hands in mine. "This does not change how I feel about you or our future together." After several tense discussions and consulting with her own attorney, Jessica reluctantly agreed to sign. The agreement stated clearly that in case of divorce, I would retain 75% of our assets, particularly if infidelity was involved. There was also a clause about unauthorized transfer of joint funds. As she signed the document, I promised myself we would build such a strong marriage that these words would remain just ink on paper, never to be invoked. The early years of our marriage were everything I had hoped for. We purchased a beautiful house in an upscale neighborhood with a backyard large enough for the family we planned to start someday. Each room was carefully designed to reflect our shared aesthetic, modern yet comfortable, sophisticated, without being pretentious. My software company grew exponentially after landing several major corporate clients. I developed a proprietary system that streamlined inventory management, and soon we had contracts with businesses across the country. Jessica thrived in her marketing career as well, climbing the corporate ladder at an impressive pace and eventually becoming the marketing director for a prestigious firm. Our success allowed us to enjoy the finer things in life. We traveled to Europe twice a year, exploring new cities and cultures, our home filled with souvenirs and artwork from our adventures. We hosted dinner parties for friends and colleagues, presenting ourselves as the perfect power couple: successful, attractive, and deeply in love. Together, we built an investment portfolio that included stocks, real estate properties, and retirement accounts. Our financial advisor praised our strategic planning and projected a very comfortable early retirement if we stayed the course. Everything seemed perfect on paper. We had the careers, the home, and the lifestyle many dream about. Looking back, I can pinpoint when things began to change, though I missed the signs at the time. 3 years into our marriage, Jessica started working later hours. At first, I supported her dedication to her career, picking up takeout dinner that often went cold before she arrived home. Our conversations grew shorter, more superficial, focusing on schedules and household matters rather than our dreams and feelings. The first major argument came after I surprised her at her office with lunch, only to discover she had left hours earlier for a client meeting that she had never mentioned. When confronted, Jessica became defensive, accusing me of checking up on her and not respecting her professional independence. "You do not own me, Daniel," she snapped, her voice colder than I had ever heard it. "I do not need to report my every movement to you." I retreated, apologizing for overstepping, but a seed of doubt had been planted. Over the following months, I noticed she guarded her phone carefully, positioned its screen down, and took calls in another room. When I asked about weekend work events, her explanations became increasingly vague and contradictory. Our home, once a haven of warmth and connection, grew silent and tense. We occupied the same space but rarely connected meaningfully. I tried planning date nights and weekend getaways to rekindle our relationship, but Jessica always had excuses: work deadlines, networking events, or sudden migraines. The physical intimacy that had once been passionate and frequent dwindled to obligatory encounters that left me feeling more lonely than before. The truth revealed itself on a rainy Tuesday evening. Jessica had left her tablet on the kitchen counter while showering, and a notification appeared from someone named James. Normally, I would never invade her privacy, but something about the preview text, "Missing you already after lunch today," made my stomach tighten. With shaking hands, I opened the message thread and found months of exchanges between them: intimate conversations, plans for secret meetings, and explicit messages that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Scrolling further, I discovered that James was not just any man. He was the business partner we had invested with 2 years prior, someone who had dined at our table countless times. Photos revealed moments stolen in hotel rooms and weekend trips disguised as business conferences. Each image felt like a physical blow, destroying the foundation of trust I had built my life upon. The bathroom water continued running as I sat there, my world crumbling around me. When Jessica emerged in her bathrobe, she found me sitting motionless in the kitchen, her tablet open before me. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, to defensive anger in seconds. "You went through my private messages," she accused, reaching for the tablet. "Are you sleeping with James?" I asked quietly, my voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos inside me. Her denial came too quickly, too forcefully. "That is ridiculous. We are colleagues. You are seeing things that are not there because you have been so distant." Distant. The word hung in the air between us. "I have been right here, Jessica, waiting for you to come home, night after night while you were with him." The argument escalated as her denials gave way to blame. According to Jessica, I had driven her to seek connection elsewhere. I worked too much, did not appreciate her, did not understand her needs. She twisted every past disagreement into justification for her betrayal, painting herself as the victim in our marriage. "Maybe we should just end this," she finally spat out. "I deserve happiness, and clearly I will not find it with you. And do not worry, I will make sure to take my fair share when I go." Her words cut deeply, not just because of the threat of divorce, but because of how easily she dismissed our years together, how readily she had replaced me in her heart. That night I slept in the guest room, staring at the ceiling as I processed the reality that my marriage was not just troubled, it was shattered beyond repair. Over the following weeks, Jessica became increasingly hostile and secretive. I noticed financial statements disappearing from our home office. Our joint account showed unusual withdrawals: $5,000 here, $7,000 there, always just below the threshold that would trigger a notification to my phone. Through a mutual friend, I learned Jessica had been meeting with divorce attorneys, shopping around for someone who would help her secure the most favorable settlement. She believed her career contributions entitled her to half of everything we had built, despite the prenuptial agreement she had signed. "She says the prenup was signed under duress," our friend reluctantly told me. "She is convinced she can get it invalidated." Each day brought new discoveries of her deception. A hidden credit card with charges for expensive gifts clearly not meant for me. Emails to real estate agents about property valuations. A secret savings account where she had been diverting funds for months. All the while, she maintained a facade of normalcy when we had company, playing the role of devoted wife, while systematically preparing to leave me with as little as possible. The contrast between her public persona and private actions was staggering, a perfect performance that made me question how much of our relationship had been genuine. As my personal life crumbled, I maintained my composure and focus. Instead of confronting Jessica about each new discovery, I documented everything meticulously. I met discreetly with my attorney Thomas Wilson, reviewing our prenuptial agreement and assessing our legal position. The agreement is solid, Thomas assured me after examining the document, especially with evidence of infidelity and unauthorized financial transfers. But we need to be strategic about how and when we proceed. Following his advice, I secured copies of all financial records and backed up evidence of the affair. I adjusted access permissions to my business accounts and created contingency plans for various scenarios. While outwardly maintaining the routine of our failing marriage, I prepared silently for the inevitable confrontation. This period was the most challenging of my life. I woke each morning in a home that no longer felt like mine, sharing space with someone who had become a stranger. The betrayal echoed in every room, in every strained conversation. Yet somehow, I found strength in the clarity that came with accepting the truth. Our marriage was over, but I would not allow myself to be victimized twice, first by her infidelity and then by her greed. The annual anniversary party for our friends Michael and Sarah provided Jessica with the dramatic stage she craved. Surrounded by our social circle, she clinked her glass for attention, her crimson lips curved in a smile that did not reach her eyes. "I have an announcement," she declared, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. "Daniel and I are getting divorced. And honestly," she laughed, raising her glass higher, "I feel like I am finally free of him." Every eye in the room turned to me, awaiting my reaction. The humiliation burned hot in my chest, but years of business negotiations had taught me the power of appearing unaffected. I simply smiled, raised my glass slightly, and said, "Indeed." The stunned silence that followed was broken by awkward murmurs, and people suddenly finding reasons to refresh their drinks or check their phones. Our hosts tried valiantly to salvage the evening, but the damage was done. Jessica had achieved her goal: public embarrassment, designed to paint me as the villain in our story. As we left separately that night, Jessica whispered, "I hope you are ready to start over with nothing." Her confidence was absolute, and for a moment I wondered if she knew something about our legal situation that I did not. 3 days later, we sat across from each other in a conference room at my attorney's office. Jessica arrived 15 minutes late, a power move designed to assert control. She wore an expensive new suit and brought along her lawyer, Alan Peters, known for aggressive tactics in high-asset divorces. "Let us get straight to business." Peters began, placing a document on the table. "My client is entitled to 50% of all marital assets, including the appreciation of Mr. Walker's business during the marriage." Jessica sat back with a self-satisfied smile, examining her manicured nails as her attorney outlined demands for the house investment accounts and ongoing business interests. The list was extensive and presumptuous, ignoring the existence of our prenuptial agreement entirely. When they finished, Thomas nodded politely and placed a different document on the table: our signed prenuptial agreement with relevant sections highlighted. "Before we continue," he said calmly, "we should review the existing legal framework for this dissolution." I watched Jessica's expression as Thomas methodically explained the terms we had agreed to before marriage. Her confident smile faltered slightly, but she leaned to whisper something to her attorney, who nodded reassuringly. "We anticipated you would bring up the prenup," Peters interjected. "However, we believe it was signed under duress and with inadequate legal counsel. We are prepared to challenge its validity." Thomas maintained his professional demeanor as he opened a folder and removed several photographs. "That would be ill-advised," he said, sliding the images across the table. The color drained from Jessica's face as she looked at the undeniable evidence of her affair with James: time-stamped photos, hotel receipts, and message transcripts. Her attorney picked up one image, then another, his expression growing increasingly concerned. Additionally, Thomas continued producing financial statements. "We have documented unauthorized transfers from joint accounts totaling $93,000 over the past 6 months. According to Section 4.3 of the prenuptial agreement, this constitutes financial misconduct." Jessica's composure cracked completely. "Those were legitimate expenses," she protested, voice rising. "And those pictures prove nothing." But her attorney placed a restraining hand on her arm, recognizing the strength of our position. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess to consult privately," he suggested, already gathering the documents. When they returned 30 minutes later, the shift in dynamics was palpable. Peters requested a more reasonable discussion of terms, acknowledging the prenuptial agreement as valid, but seeking some flexibility within its framework. "The agreement is quite clear," Thomas replied. "In case of infidelity which has been established, Mrs. Walker is entitled to 25% of marital assets. The unauthorized transfers will be counted against that portion." Jessica, now understanding the reality of her situation, switched tactics completely. Gone was the confident woman who had publicly humiliated me. In her place sat someone desperate to salvage what she could. "Daniel," she said, her voice softening as she addressed me directly. "For the first time, we had 8 years together. Does that mean nothing to you? We built our lives together. Surely we can work this out between us, without all this legal posturing." I maintained eye contact, but said nothing, remembering her cruelty at the party, the months of deception, the calculated plan to take what she had not earned. "I made a mistake with James," she continued, tears gathering in her eyes. "It was a stupid affair that meant nothing. He has already ended things anyway now that he knows about the divorce." Of course he had. James had pursued my wife for her perceived access to wealth, not for love. Without the promise of financial gain, he had quickly disappeared from the picture, leaving Jessica to face the consequences alone. "The terms of the agreement will stand," I finally said. "My attorney will handle all further communications." As Jessica realized her manipulation would not work, her demeanor changed again from contrition to anger. "You planned this all along," she accused. "You trapped me with that prenup." "No, Jessica," I replied, standing to leave. "You did this to yourself." The legal process dragged on for nearly 7 months, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The court upheld our prenuptial agreement, finding no evidence of duress or inadequate counsel. Jessica received 25% of our marital assets, considerably less than the half she had expected. In a gesture that surprised both our attorneys, I voluntarily allocated an additional small property to Jessica's elderly parents, who had always treated me with kindness. The property provided them with rental income they needed, and while Jessica viewed this as an attempt to turn her family against her, it was simply the right thing to do. When our divorce was finalized, I felt no triumph, only relief that the painful chapter was closing. Walking out of the courthouse on that final day, I experienced both a profound emptiness and a curious lightness. The marriage that had defined 8 years of my life was officially over. The initial months of my new reality were darker than I cared to admit. Despite maintaining a stoic exterior through the divorce proceedings privately, I grappled with intense feelings of betrayal, inadequacy, and grief. My home, once filled with hopes for our future, echoed with silence and memories I could not escape. Sleep eluded me most nights. I would lie awake, replaying moments from our marriage, searching for signs I had missed, wondering if there had been opportunities to save what we had built. During daylight hours, I threw myself into work with an intensity that concerned my colleagues, using exhaustion as a way to avoid confronting the pain. 2 months after the divorce, at the insistence of my sister Laura, I reluctantly began seeing Dr. Marcus, a therapist specializing in divorce recovery. Our initial sessions were stilted, with me intellectualizing my experience rather than truly processing it. "You are very good at analyzing what happened, doctor," Marcus observed during our 4th session. "But how does it feel, Daniel?" That simple question broke something open inside me. The carefully constructed walls collapsed, and for the first time I allowed myself to fully experience the devastation of losing not just my marriage, but my belief in my own judgment and my vision for the future. Through therapy, I began to understand that while I could not have prevented Jessica's choices, there were patterns in our relationship that had made it vulnerable. I had prioritized career success over emotional connection. I had ignored subtle shifts in our dynamic, choosing to believe in the image of our marriage rather than its reality. Gradually, I rediscovered parts of myself that had been subsumed in my identity as Jessica's husband. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my marriage. I resumed playing basketball on weekends, an activity Jessica had always considered a waste of time. I took cooking classes, learning to prepare meals for myself rather than relying on takeout or Jessica's occasional culinary efforts. The turning point came unexpectedly nearly a year after our separation began. While clearing out a storage closet, I found a journal from my college years, filled with dreams and plans I had long forgotten, traveling to certain countries, learning to sail, writing the novel that had always lived in my imagination. That night, I created a new list, not of goals to achieve or assets to acquire, but experiences I wanted to have, and the person I wanted to become. For the first time in years, I felt genuine excitement about my future, a future that was now entirely my own to shape. The most profound lesson from my failed marriage was not about prenuptial agreements or financial security, though those certainly proved important. It was about the true meaning of value in life. I had succeeded in protecting my material assets through legal preparation, but the greater wealth was what I discovered afterward: resilience, self-knowledge, and the capacity to trust again, albeit more wisely. I learned that no legal document can protect your heart. That pain, when faced directly rather than avoided, eventually transforms into wisdom. That forgiveness, even of someone who never sought it, was something I did for myself rather than for Jessica. 18 months after our divorce, I established a foundation, providing legal and financial education to people entering marriages or serious relationships. The irony that my failed marriage would become the catalyst for helping others navigate their own partnerships more successfully was not lost on me. Through the foundation, I met Emily, a financial literacy educator with a genuine passion for empowering others. Unlike the immediate spark with Jessica, my connection with Emily built slowly and steadily based on shared values and authentic communication. When I eventually shared my divorce story with her, Emily asked questions no one else had. Not about the money or the dramatic conclusion, but about what I had learned about myself, what I needed in a relationship, and how the experience had changed my capacity to trust. Everyone has scars, she told me. What matters is whether we let them close us off or teach us how to love better. 2 years after meeting Emily, as we moved into our new home together, I realized that losing what I thought was everything had led me to what truly mattered. The prenuptial agreement had protected my assets, but the painful ending of my marriage had paradoxically opened the door to a more authentic life than I had ever imagined possible. Sometimes the things we lose are merely making room for what we truly need to find. Have you ever experienced a painful ending that eventually led to something better? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and growth. Thank you for listening, and remember that even in our darkest moments, we are often standing on the threshold of our greatest transformation.